Hey, welcome to a new episode of Tech Careers. This is your host Rishabh, and I have a guest from British Columbia, Canada. He has a similar journey like me, where he came to Canada as an international student, did his associate's degree, worked as a sysadmin, and then found his way into cloud. He is a cloud lab developer right now working at Cloud Academy. Please join me in welcoming Parveen. So, yeah, Parveen, take it away.
Hey, thanks, Rishabh. Myself, Parveen Singh. I've been working in IT for almost 5 years now, and most recently, I've been just helping companies secure their cloud infrastructure and automate it in any way using Microsoft Cloud Services.
Awesome, awesome. So you're a Microsoft Azure person, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Have
Microsoft
you
guy.
have you explored like other cloud providers or
I have, yeah, I have done AWS at some point,
hmm,
and I've done few QAs for some content in Google Cloud as well. But Microsoft is where I kind of sit most of the time.
nice, nice. So yeah, I think going back to when did we actually got to know each other? I think it was a year ago
2021,
or 2021, 2 years
2021.
ago
Yeah,
now.
I
Yeah.
think 2021. That's when I started posting a lot on Twitter
Yeah, I
and create a
remember.
lot of videos. Not a whole lot, but there was 100 days of cloud going on, which I was kind of actively posting in as well. So that's where we met.
Yeah. So just like me, Praveen also like I know I believe you're a believer in like learning in public.
Yeah.
So he started
Hmm.
posting a lot. He does a lot of LinkedIn now. I see you being active on LinkedIn. And I think 2021 was also like a journey for me to start, just doing learning in public stuff. So more blog posts, more tweets, and engaging with the cloud community, and that's how we met. Um, the journey is quite interesting to me because it's not the same old journey that you see, right? It's not
Hmm.
like, oh, I was in high school, I was good at math, I did computer science, and now I work at like, big tech company. And
Yeah.
that's why I like to bring guests that have, like a different story. And so that people who are in the same, kind of situation, they can be motivated to or inspired that, okay, yeah, this is, something that's possible. So yeah, let's get started with your background, Praveen. So not college, like even before that, did
Hmm.
you had like an interest in computers and were you like a geek? Oh,
Nothing until 2015, and that's when I started college. I had
mm,
zero clue of, if I wanted to go into computers. I did have one computer that my parents bought me, like, with a full-blown tower, CPU stuff
oh,
inside.
nice.
I used to play a lot of GTA back then, and I kind of would, every few months I'll just reinstall my Windows operating system because I'd just have like something downloaded and, it'll just corrupt everything. Back then, a lot of ransomware antivirus, was not there. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of where I used to use computers, but I had no idea I'm gonna go into computers at one point.
the good old days. Yeah, yeah. I
Uh,
remember like I had a my dad was showing me this. He has a case of CDs that
mhm.
I used to take care of, or like my collection of CDs, and one of them is like Windows 7 CD because I remember
Yeah,
every time like something malicious would come to your computer and it would destroy
hmm.
everything, you had to reinstall Windows. So I
I
remember
do
it was
remember
hard.
once, like I saw this screen of like ransomware screen once. Back then, I didn't know what it was. I was like, okay, what's this screen? They're asking for money, and
Yeah,
I quickly rebooted the system. And then when I did reboot, on the login page, I logged in as guest. So instead of going into my regular user, and what came to my mind, went into guest and I did the whole format to my computer again, and then it was back to normal.
it was pretty smart, rather than
Yeah.
paying the ransom. Like
Yeah.
if I go back 2014 or 13, like I would have paid the ransom.
Uh,
Because I was not aware about things that go
mhm.
around. Like now I'm way more educated, I guess, or have the knowledge that, oh, these type of scams and ransomware attacks do happen,
Mhm.
um, and they are not Microsoft that is trying to
Yeah.
ask for license money. It's actually bad actors. Interesting. So was this in Canada?
No, that was in
This
India,
was
in Punjab
yeah,
back then. Yeah.
okay. So you came to Canada after your high
Came to
school, right?
Canada in 2015. Yeah. That's when I started my kind of college life. And then
Mm,
that's where, as I went into studying, I was like, computer science seems like the only option I can choose. But still not knowing, where it's going to take me.
mm,
I was like, maybe, 2 years of study or 3 years, I'll just find something that I love
I see. So it, but sorry, just going back to my question. This was after high school in India.
after high school.
Okay. And so this um, college that you went to, I know it's Columbia College, right?
Hmm.
And this was a 3-year program?
It was a 2-year program for associates.
Oh, okay. So this
Yeah.
was a diploma, right? Or like an associate
Not really. It's
degree.
like associate degree. You can continue the it like doing
I see.
another 1 or 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. And this was specifically in like what was the, you know, was it computer science in general or was it computer networking?
It was computer
Um,
science major. Yeah.
okay.
They had like 6 to 8 computer courses, like including Python, C++, hardware level stuff as well. Working with binaries and all those things.
Nice. Nice.
Nowhere near cloud actually. Nowhere near cloud, if I were to say. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I found. Like, yeah, similar experience, but since my program was not computer science kind of focused, like it was more networking. So
Mm-hmm.
Windows Server management, Linux, and then some hardware. So it was really fast paced. Whereas, like, I feel like like this program sounds good to me because you can transfer to like a full degree, and you
Mm-hmm.
also have Python, C++, which I
Yeah.
feel like going back, I would have loved to start a programming language, like started learning a programming language sooner than later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So no cloud. So tell
No
me when
cloud.
you
Cloud.
like when you
Yeah.
learned about cloud.
I think during the school time, I was working a lot of jobs here and there, and I had the interest in programming along the way when I started learning Python and C++. plus plus. I
Mm,
really loved like the Visual Studio Code and the Visual Studio itself. Like I was using Visual Studio back then to kind of develop C++ plus plus softwares, and that's where I got intrigued with the idea of software development or software engineering. And I would learn like Python, I would learn Java, I would learn also like went through with Flutter at one point because Flutter was like very flourishing back then,
hmm.
and my Google had like a ton of content on YouTube for their Flutter training, like I think the boring podcast,
Yeah,
something like
I
that.
think so. I think
Yeah,
so.
they would like sit for 1 hour, do live coding, and I would just watch that and follow that on my own screen. A lot of learning there, and then that's the time when I was working in security, not the
Oh,
cloud
cool.
security, but the
Oh,
actual
okay, okay.
physical security, the traditional security officer that we did. So yeah, I worked in security back then. I was also working at a gas station for like almost 2 years.
Pretty similar
So
stories. Pretty similar
I
stories.
mean, that's what you do have to do, right, to get somewhere in the life. So I think
Yeah.
those places where we start, you don't just straight jump into IT at any point. IT has
Yeah.
a big kind of entry barrier. I feel that's there for people who are trying to enter.
Oh, I see. That's a good take. Like that's a I don't know. It's definitely a different opinion than mine. So,
Hmm.
I would love to discuss that, but I do realize that things that international students have to do compared to, like no hate or like offense to like domestic students or whatever, but the
Yeah,
battles are I guess they're just different, right? Um and I'm pretty sure like so this was for 2 years, right? The associate degree.
yeah, 2 years.
So I'm pretty sure you worked the entire 2 years, along with your studying, you were working
Yeah,
part time for
a lot
your
of different
expenses and
jobs,
stuff.
like yeah, a lot of different jobs, not related to IT at all back then.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So you did your associate degree. You worked in security, like physical security and at a
Hmm.
gas station. Did you do any internships during those 2 years or after the 2-year mark?
No, we didn't have any internship in the program. It was just
I see.
plain courses. So yeah, you do study for 2 years and then you're on your own. So you go find job, you do what you want to do.
I guess it turned out good for you, but let's talk into that transition. Like, okay, so you graduated, you got your associate's degree. How did you land your like first? I know you did a system and network admin job, right? Was that
Yeah,
your first IT job?
that was my first IT job. I want to take you back a little bit, where kind of the discovery started. I had a guy in the college who I met, and it's like, what do you? We were just talking about, his professional career because he actually worked in IT as well, and he was just doing the continuous study here. So I was like, well, what do you do? I was like, I was doing CCNA. Back then, I have never heard of
Hmm.
CCNA stuff. Like, I haven't heard about Cisco, didn't know what those companies were, or even these certifications. And he was like, I've done these two exams, and then I got this CCNA. I was like, what CCNA? I need that. In my mind, I was like, okay, I need to do that. That's probably gonna help me. And that's where the kind of discovery started, to realize, these are all certification that these companies are working with. The whole IT industry, stands on certification somewhere for you to kind of show yourself, you know what you're talking about, basically. So that's when I started learning on lynda.com.
Mm,
So we had Surrey Library and
yeah.
Vancouver Library. They would give out like library cards, and the cards would have like unlimited access to lynda.com. You do whatever you want to do, you take as many courses, you don't pay a single penny. I have, to be honest, done so much studying there, watched like courses back to back, and not even just IT. Like back then, I started studying CCNA, and knowing that this is one of the things that I could do.
Mm,
And I studied a lot of like project management, IT management, like anything that comes into IT. I was just like, I just spend time because I had time back then, right?
yeah.
We have a ton of time when you're like kind of studying in school. You don't have so much of homework to do,
Hmm.
and you're coming back from work. You don't have anything else of the work to follow
Yeah.
up as well after you come home. So you have all the free time to do stuff that you want to do.
Yeah. I feel like it's not like IT where you have to like come home and like, sometimes you're in this constant like learning kind of
Yeah.
phase.
Or even
Whereas,
just constant mindset of thinking about what happened at work, or what you
oh
want to
yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
tomorrow, or something on the project that you're doing, right? Those kind of
Yeah.
things were not there.
Yeah. If your shift is done at the gas station, you forget about it.
Yeah,
You take the bus home and that's it.
yeah,
Call it a day.
yeah. It's the
No,
same
that's
thing.
really
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I think you taking advantage of the resources that were made available, like that's one thing that I miss. Like I regret, I guess, is
Mm-hmm.
even though if I tell people if I go back and if I had to change anything about my career or my path that I was on, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't be here if it was not the things that I learned through my mistakes. But one thing I do regret is we had access like that.
Mm-hmm.
We had books that you could take for CCNA and stuff, and I
Yeah.
didn't because I'm like, I remember our networking professor said, CCNA is like really important if you want to work in network admin kind of roles.
Mm-hmm.
And back then I just looked at the book and I'm like, there's no way I'm reading this because it's a really big book.
It's huge. Yeah, and two exams. It's not just one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're expensive exams. So at that time I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this. Um but it's nice to hear that you like we're already in this mental space of, I want to break into IT.
Mm-hmm.
Because trust me, the first 2 semesters were, I won't say harsh on me, but like I was okay in studies. But then, you know, you're in a circle where like people were telling me, oh, you work as a pizza delivery guy, the pizza place person was like, I can get you an LMI, right, for the PR
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For people who are not
Yeah.
familiar with immigration on this
A lot of
podcast,
people ask you to just drop out of college and just do LMI, and yeah.
exactly. So I was told that, don't focus too much on studies, rather like put in your hours here and they'll make me
Mm-hmm.
manager and stuff, whatever. So like long term. like 5 years at Pizza and you'll be good. And I'm like, okay. And then you're surrounded by the circle that keeps telling you the same because they have gone through the same path.
Hmm.
I had seniors who did the same diploma and were, nothing bad in that. I feel like everyone's journey is different. But it was until third semester, I think a similar thing happened. I was appointed a lab partner who was working in IT already. So he was doing like,
Hmm.
I think his work was paying to get him this diploma. So
Oh,
that's,
same thing, man. I had a guy actually. One guy, he is not from our community. I think he came from Russia or
oh,
something.
okay.
I'm not sure. His name is Luis. So I would look at him. He's like only guy in the class who would sit with his laptop. He had a MacBook back then, and he would sit and just do coding. I don't know what he was coding, and I would just see a black window terminal
Yeah.
and VS Code, because now I know it's VS Code. Back then I didn't know it
Back
was
then,
VS
no.
Code,
Yeah.
and I was like, one day I like looking at him like for a few days, and he would come in my computer science class, and I would like, what's this guy doing? He's not even listening to the lectures.
The lecture. Yeah.
And I talked to him. I was like, "What do you do?" And he told me, "No, I build software for companies." I'm like, "Okay, what are you doing here then?" And that was funny. And he was already making like 4 or 5 grand a month, just just doing what he's doing. And he's also taking classes because he came as immigrant as well. But he's working remotely for companies, and
Oh,
that
nice.
was very fascinating to me. And he's still in my contact to this date, because
Same
I,
here.
I talk to him like every few years to see how he's doing. But it's just the surrounding, as you mentioned. We didn't have many people who would be in computer science, especially in our community. There's not many people who are doing computer science and
Hmm.
programming, and even cloud is like totally brand new for us guys, right?
Yeah.
So we don't see or hear from people trying to motivate us, go into cloud or learn IT stuff like that. They were mostly like, go into construction, go into this, this other career.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, it's the exposure I think that we
Mm,
lacked. And in third semester, I remember like I saw this person, and I'm like you're already working, like why do you have to study? And he's like, oh, my work is paying for this. And I'm like, if you don't mind sharing, like what's like the pay range that one can expect if I seriously want to take this as a career? And he was making good amount of money being a student. I'm like, okay, like that's when I realized that I have to focus on this and get an IT job, even if it's help desk, right?
yeah.
So it's good to see that you started out. Yeah, so yeah, we talked about your thought process, like how it changed, and like why did you want to pursue um
Hmm.
the career in IT, right? So did you take your CCNA or no?
I tried. I tried.
Okay.
I
Okay.
tried so hard to get into, but I think the force of the nature was stopping me to do it. I didn't eventually go to CCNA, but when I landed my first IT job, it was through reference. A lot of people knew me at the job that I applied to. So it just came to me. When I went to meet the guy who was the owner of the company. The other people were there to kind of recognize me, so that worked out in my favor. So I worked at the company for almost more than 2 years, still in contact with those guys.
Hmm.
You always want to maintain the contacts, which is one thing in IT, in all networking, and keeping up with the previous contacts. Those things
Definitely,
are
yeah.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it just shows you like, who you are as a person. Like
Hmm.
I tell this to people, like nobody wants to work with someone who is rude, right? Like,
If you leave a company at a bad terms, nobody's gonna call you back or even bother to talk to you.
yeah.
If you
That's
leave
the
a
other thing
good
I
terms,
realized.
leave a good space for company to kind of grow as well as you're leaving, or even just create a good contact at the company, do the work that you're doing and do the best, right? So people will want you to come back, even if you're gone like after 2 years.
Definitely. And like who knows where you'll cross paths again, like,
Hmm.
because your manager can leave the company too and work at some other
Yeah,
place
yeah.
and would love to want to work with you again. So like just remember that, it's a it's a small world. The other thing I realized, being in IT or in Canada, I guess, is if you get a new job, they're gonna call you, they're gonna call your ex-employers to
Hmm.
see and do
Yeah,
referral checks, right?
a lot of reference checks.
So if you're not like if you had a bad time at a certain
Hmm.
company, that call is not gonna look good on your reference check.
It's tough. I think it's also tough if you're leaving from. Maybe the company knows it's not the things are not good, and the guy is just leaving us for good, for his own good, right? Hey,
Yeah.
maybe it's not growing, but still, you don't want to kind of put that impression of, hey, you guys are bad and all that. Just leave it at good terms. Just let them know,
Yeah,
I
like
want to grow in my career. I want to
yes.
pursue other opportunities to grow, and they'll appreciate it.
Yeah,
They'll
and
they'll,
they
they'll know, yeah,
understand
this
that.
guy's, yeah,
They
yeah.
understand that. Just be honest and be like, I've spent X amount of years. I feel like I'm not growing.
Mhm.
I feel like I do all the good work, so I have this opportunity that I want to pursue, and they will be fine because there's you're not the first who is leaving the company. There have been
Yeah.
1,000 others. It's just to maintain that, I guess. Yeah, like you said, who you are as a person, and be in good terms. Awesome. So 2 years in system and network admin role. What were your kind of responsibilities? Like just a brief kind of overview.
It was a boutique firm.
Okay.
So, with small companies, you wear all the hats, not just few of
Yeah.
them or some, but you wear all of them. So we had a few people on team, and I was taking care of a major banking organization here in Surrey. They had a ton of branches in Vancouver, Lower Mainland area. So I had to work on a lot of different things. Like they had domain network, they have MPLS, they have Cisco routers. They got different kind of switches in house as well, like 10, 20 servers in the head office of their own, and then they got every server, each one server each in branches as well, and then there's a file server, a typical kind of domain structure
Hardcore
going on.
sysadmin
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
hardcore sysadmin. So I would work on like a lot of virtualization there, a lot of administration of what's going on, the hardware support, and you know, constantly working on the Windows operating system. Fixing stuff here and there, break and fix. It's just starts from break and fix, right? Then you eventually grow into it. So that's where it went to operations. So after a certain time, a year and a half in, I started taking on the operations work, doing more of like client management,
Mm.
looking at the client's problems and kind of not just doing break and fix, but fixing it so that it doesn't happen again. Making changes to the process. Maybe we keep doing thing in a certain way and it keeps failing every few weeks. So kind of looking at those patterns and then building something out of that, something that can be implemented to make sure it doesn't happen again. So it
So like
slowly
big
transitions.
picture
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I think that was needed because in the company there were only few people, so nobody else was really thinking on that level, and the position was like very stationary. So
I
yeah.
Yeah, I'm already seeing like a trend in your in your work ethic and like mindset is
Mhm.
it's not just like you're okay with doing the work. You are on this constant, you know like a graph you see. Like I saw that when you shared about your education, is like we had access to Linda, and I think I did
Yeah.
only two courses. That's it. Like because the actual schoolwork is enough for me. So like
Yeah.
that mindset, I feel like is really important to like especially in tech. I feel like because things change so like frequently, right?
Really frequently, yeah. Microsoft exams changes every 6 months, so you have a ton of new services to learn if you're like sitting for exam after 6 months. And that
True.
happened to me recently. Like my admin certification got expired,
Okay.
and I forgot to renew it because I'm kind of at the stage where I'm like, I just don't care about certifications anymore. But I still need them. I don't want them to kind of be in the
Yeah.
expired state. So I was like, maybe I'll just sit for exam again. And I sat for the exam, failed once. for like 50 marks, and I was like, okay, this is not good. I need to go
Yeah.
back again. So yeah, a lot of new things come in the exam, so you have to keep up with the changing environment.
Hmm.
But I think it's all also the curiosity. If you're curious to learn new stuff, things come
They'll
at your
keep you
way, and
going.
it's just a
Yeah.
matter of you kind of discovering them. Because I think a year or a year and a half into my IT career beginning, I got to know about a lot of local meetups.
Oh, nice.
There was OWASP that happens in Vancouver like
Hmm.
every month. I'm sure it happens in other areas too. We had like cybersecurity conferences here in Vancouver, a ton of other conferences, which I would like back then I had time. So after work, I would just go straight to Vancouver, drive there, take SkyTrain, and just spend 1 or 2 hours, every week or maybe every 2 weeks, whenever they happen, and then just meet new people. I've met so
Hmm.
many people here, just from these kind of events and groups that those people actually helped me a lot in terms of getting new jobs, referencing me here and there. And those are networks you wanna work with, basically. The more you grow, people are there to support you if you are moving into the right direction. So
Definitely.
that's where I kind of came across a lot of these tech words, like cybersecurity. Cloud came to me at the first time there, like after I think a year and a half into IT.
Hmm.
Back before that, I had no idea. Okay, what's the Microsoft Cloud or Azure? I knew about Office 365 because we
Yeah.
had licenses and stuff, right? I didn't know anything much about certifications that Microsoft provide. But I think going into those conferences, going into those events, I discovered a lot of these certifications and the pathway to cloud, as well as to other companies like CompTIA. They give
Yeah.
Network Plus, Security Plus, Cloud Plus, all these certifications. And I think that was in August of July of that year, 20 2020, I
19,
think so.
2020. Okay.
19 or 20, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It, it,
Just to
I, I
like,
I
I
remember,
guess.
yeah, it was a July. It was July month, and I was like thinking to myself, I need to do this cloud certifications. This is what really sounds fascinating to me. And
Hmm.
CCNA was like still low in the picture. I was like, this is not helping. CCNA is like way too much hardware and too much vendor focused. So I don't
Yeah.
I don't want to stick into a vendor in this level where I don't learn anything about other
Hmm.
stuff. So I started looking into Microsoft Azure exams, and then I discovered Azure Fundamentals and Associates Admin.
And this is
So
still at the first job, right? Like
still
the
at the first job, yeah.
one and a half year
And
mark.
we had no need of the certifications in the
Yeah.
company. Like
I was
the
gonna
company
ask
has
that,
like
like, was companies' focus changing to like help
no
support cloud? Okay.
company was they were doing some sort of cloud, but there was no need for us to have the cloud certifications
There
or
was no
log into
push from
portal.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I talked to a manager. I was like, I want to do this thing, and he's like, sure. But I didn't ask for him to pay for it. I don't know how the scenario works in these
Okay. Okay.
companies, or or even in big companies. But I went for Azure Fundamentals, and I think I prepared for Azure Fundamental like in 1 month,
Mm.
or actually less than 1 month. And I was like, okay, this is easy.
Okay. Okay.
I was talking to myself like, okay, this is nothing. And it's like, maybe let's go for Azure Admin.
Yeah.
And I remember back then, when preparing for Azure Admin, our company had access to Pluralsight. There
Yes.
was like 1 or 2 month of access that we were given from Microsoft
I see.
as part of, I think the company was partnered with Microsoft,
Yeah.
or they had
For the
Action Pack, I think
365
so.
licenses and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they had Action Pack partnership, and then with the partnership, you get 5 users, and all the users can have like Linda or Pluralsight access for
Plural
like
site
three
access.
months, I think so. That's when I came across Tim Warner. Great guy.
Yep.
I know.
Great
I'm
guy.
sure you have
Shout
heard.
out to Tim.
Everybody
Shout out to
had.
Tim Warner. Yeah.
Yeah. So came across his courses on Pluralsight, and I just learned the hell out of Azure Admin from him. And sat for exam like I guess 3 weeks after my fundamental, and passed it. Brand new, totally fresh. Haven't heard of cloud like 2 months ago, and I
Yeah.
was like, this is cool
This
stuff.
is cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think And that's why I said like your role seemed like really hardcore, sysadmin stuff, because working at a small company, people don't
Hmm.
realize that you have to wear multiple hats.
Yeah.
You could be diving really deep into setting up routers and switches to setting up, 365 for a client, or,
Hmm.
other jobs. So like you're not just focused on, okay, I'm just launching instances in, this hardware server rack, right? It could
Yeah.
be anything. And then you come to a point that you will run into issues and you have to troubleshoot it by yourself. So I think that, like, that kind of, constant working on different things helps you. I feel like it had given you a really solid foundation, even though you didn't know anything about cloud. But once you like
Yeah.
started picking it up, you were like, oh, this is easy because I've done certain things that
I think
help
you
me
have to set.
understand this.
I think you have to set some goals as well for yourself, because without kind of a pathway, you're not get
Hmm.
anywhere. You're just gonna be like sitting where you are, or probably just wandering around, not going, being not sure about where you're gonna go or what's next coming
And
that you want to pursue.
it's really easy to get lost in tech.
It's really easy to get kind of comfortable in that position and just be the way you are and not really do anything
Yeah,
out of your 9 to 5. And
yeah.
I
I
think
think
in
we.
June,
I
yeah,
already know the mindset you have behind that. It's
yeah.
like I can totally see that from the beginning you had that mindset, and I think that's why you are where you are right now,
Hmm.
and the progress you have seen. But sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to
Yeah, I
interrupt.
think I tell to a lot of people who come to me like, hey, I want to get into IT or I want to get
Hmm.
into cloud, specifically when the people see I'm working in cloud. They would come like, what's in cloud? We want to get started, and I tell them like how I kind of told myself that I want to get into this cloud thing. In July, when I kind of discovered Azure fundamentals, I told myself, I want to get into cloud job in the next 6 months.
Mm.
I set a goal for me that in 6 months I want to do something in cloud. And I think July to January, I think those probably are 6 months or maybe more, a little bit less or more.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's 6 months.
yeah, it's exactly
Yeah.
6 months, and
So
that's when you shifted, right?
July, I was like prepared for Azure fundamentals and admin, went for
Yes.
those two certifications, and I already started working towards okay, what's there in cloud that I need to know? Like, what's the prerequisites?
Hmm.
When people ask me, oh, I want to get into cloud, I'm doing IT or this admin, what should I do? I always tell them networking. Go for
Yeah,
networking first. Get a good
and you
grasp
mean
on networking fundamentals, in terms of, sorry, not the IT networking, but the computer
cloud?
networking. Yeah, computer networking, basically get, figure out what VPN is, what gateways are,
Yep.
how those subnets, VNets, I'm talking cloud words, but how those VLANs or, those things work, on hardware level. You don't have to go into specifically cloud, but just figure out how this network segmentation work, how hub and spoke work. Just get into details of all these things first and figure out if you can create a subnet with 24 subnet mask or something like that you will probably do eventually in cloud.
Yeah, and I feel like networking is one thing that people either not focus too much or like try to skip it because, and this is from conversations that I've had with
Hmm.
different people, is that they say it's boring. Um, which I don't know if I can relate to that, but
I
it's
think it's
really important.
prerequisites
Yeah,
in the
it's
in the
important,
cloud.
right?
Like, I mean, in the cloud, you don't know, you have no idea how systems are working. You're just
Because
doing the
it's
portal stuff. Yeah, you're just
exactly
using
it's
graphic
someone
interface.
else's data center, right?
Yeah, you don't know how the fundamentals is laid down, how the services are communicating. I think in SQL now in Azure, by default everything is closed.
Yeah,
All the ports are closed, all the inbound communication is closed until you go in and turn it on. depending on what do you want. You want a
Yeah.
subnet? Do you want a kind of a VLAN range, or do you want all the Azure services to access it?
Talk. Yeah.
You have to know those things so that you can understand how the traffic flows in the cloud.
Otherwise, you're just opening your SQL server to the entire world.
Or maybe everything is closed. You just
Yeah.
don't know why this service is not able to communicate because you haven't opened the ports yet. So
No, that makes sense.
it's
No,
important.
that
Yeah.
is. So, would this be? Should we count this as a, you know, advice from Praveen is to focus on the important prerequisites of networking before entering cloud?
I always tell people, yeah, get the cloud fundamentals first, and then just work on your cloud networking skills or IT networking skills, and that could be where people comes in like, okay, there's no networking thing. What do I do? Do I study somewhere? Do I go
Mm,
kind of what do I do? That's where the CompTIA Network Plus comes in, and I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. It has a lot of things. It's not about sitting for the exam. It's about learning what's the content of the Network Plus curriculum is.
yeah,
If you read through the book once, you buy a book, read through the book, and get yourself familiar with all the terminologies, all the ports that are used in cloud. You don't have to sit for exam. Just learn this stuff
yeah,
that's required basically.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, just have the knowledge. Like you don't have to pay. I sometimes students say me that, oh, CompTIA certs cost $300, and I'm like,
Yeah,
just
they do.
study. You have, and don't even if you can't pay for courses or books, there is resources like Free Code Camp. Go on YouTube.
Microsoft has like 50%
Microsoft has,
discounts
yeah,
all
like
the time.
Learn has
So
so much
just last
stuff.
month, I got like two vouchers,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they just keep coming in. Like you can get like one every month, and you still have like six vouchers, six like kind of exam equivalent
Hmm.
vouchers in a year. Like considering the 50% discount,
Yeah,
that's a lot. You cannot sit for six exams in a year. You still
and
have to study
that's
a lot. You have to give it some time, like 1 or 2 months for each exam to prepare. So there's a lot of time. You just use the vouchers.
awesome, awesome, great, great. Advice and like insights into people who are trying to break into cloud or just IT. So I do know that since you made this goal of entering cloud within six
Mhm.
months, and I feel like you did it. You joined as a junior cloud solutions consultant in 2020, right?
Yeah.
And that was based on your Azure skills that you learned.
Yeah. Back then, I didn't have the blogs. I didn't have
Mm,
anything published online. All I had was two certification from Microsoft and one CompTIA Network Plus, which I sat for in November. So that was in November, and in December, I was like, okay, I have these three certifications. I don't want to do more. This
mm-hmm.
is like one thing with IT career or even people who are starting new. Just don't overdo it. You don't want to get like 10 certifications and you're only like 2 years into your IT career, and people look at it like, this is fake.
Yeah.
That's one thing that comes into mind. You don't have the experience to back up the certifications that you're
Oh yeah,
getting.
that's a good way of looking at it because you don't have experience in like how did you clear
Yeah.
so many how much
If
how
you
did
do
you
like
gain so much knowledge?
CASSP, if you do CASSP like in first year of your IT, that's not possible. You need like at least 5 years of IT industry experience to kind of even qualify for that. Not let alone know the basics of that.
So it is kind of a red flag. Yeah.
It's a red flag, which I think you want to have the experience to back up the certifications that you take. It's not viable to have like five certification in 1 year.
Hmm.
Because what are you doing? Are you not working? You're just studying for exams and doing
For
the
exams.
exams. That's those kind of things are something to think about.
Hmm. No,
Yeah.
totally. I
So
think I
yeah. So like
agree.
to continue there, yeah, to continue how I got the job. So in December, I was thinking, I got these three certifications, so let's start exploring. And I went to LinkedIn. I had profile back then as well. I was active on LinkedIn. I was active, not active on Twitter, but I was using Twitter back then as well.
Hmm.
So applied to I guess only three or four jobs, not thinking what's gonna happen.
Mm.
And I forgot about applying. I forgot about jobs that I applied for as well. It's like, okay, I applied and then I just let it be. I got a call saying, hey, you applied for this job. We would like to interview you. I was like,
Yeah,
okay, sure. Send me an email. I had no clue who called me. I had no idea.
that's the worst. It has happened to me, and it's like you're trying to memorize who is this person, which company
Yeah.
is this, where did I put my
Which company
resume?
you applied for? Yeah. I only applied for like 4 or 5 jobs, but I was not
You
sure who was
forgot.
calling
Yeah,
me.
like,
And the recruiter, so it was a recruiting firm, and
mm,
then I talked to her for like few minutes, and then she was like, okay, I'll schedule a call with the manager. I was preparing the hell out of interviews. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna let this go
yeah.
if it has come to me. And I had one shot at it because I looked at I looked at the job description later on when she called and she shared the kind of description
Mm,
and the company's detail as well. And one thing with IT guys is, if you're like really keen, you can really rip apart the whole website and figure
yeah.
out what this company is doing, what they are all about, and really talk to them from their language, in their language. I discovered they were doing blog posts. I discovered they were doing podcasts as well, a lot of them,
Nice.
and just read through their website and really kind of figured out what the company is about before going into the interview, before even
Hmm.
talking to the manager. And I was using, I think, lynda.com again. I'll mention because I was looking for courses to prepare for interview, like what kind
Mm,
of questions people ask, how to really answer them, what are the formats to answer, what things to say, what not to say. Those
hmm.
things are important, I think so, because, going into IT and the interviews, you really want to know how to answer those questions so that other person feels confident in your answers as well,
Definitely, yeah.
and also set a tone as well in the interview so that you don't come out as immature or unprofessional.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, I spent like a week kind of doing regular training, going through a lot of courses. I had a lot of time back then, so I would just study, I would just go through courses, I would take notes. I
Oh,
had like
nice.
2 pages written down, like all the questions and what kind of answers in what format I would say, and those things helped. When I had a call with the manager, she was like so happy to talk to me, and she didn't tell me. But when we finished the call, and even I mentioned about their podcast in the interview, like, hey, I looked at what you're doing. You had this podcast as well,
Hmm.
and I also like to write blog posts and stuff. I just
Nice.
pushed in
Yeah.
the stuff that I love, and they were like, okay, we do podcasts. That
You
kind
have
of resonated with
researched. Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So when the recruiter called me back, she was like, "What did you do? They just want to get straight to the hiring process
Hiring.
with you. They just like they're like, we need this guy right now." So it's like, I just went through the interview and just told them what I know.
Hmm.
And she's like, they're really happy with your profile and your skills, and they would like to kind of put an offer. I
Nice.
was like, that's great. So next interview or just kind of a call was with the CEO, and then and the manager as well. So CEO wanted to also kind of get ahead and talk to me before the actual hiring.
Hmm.
So yeah, they in January, that was in January, I was interviewing, and I joined them in February 1st. They were
Okay.
like
Yep.
eager to put me on board. Like I was like, no, 2 weeks, please,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because I need to let the people know here that I'm already working at.
Hmm.
So yeah, joined them in February or end of January. It was a great experience. They
Nice.
were cloud solution partners with Microsoft as well, providing consulting. So it was a great experience there.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. I think, yeah, a couple of points that I want to highlight is put in the time to research the company and know their culture is great.
Yeah.
Like I feel like people do that less often, whereas I feel like you, like from your story, you take it seriously, and I do
Hmm.
too. Like it just shows that how important the role is to you, right?
Yeah.
Like you are taking your interview process seriously, and since not so many people do that, it also kind of gives you an edge over other applicants.
Hmm.
It
True.
shows the interviewers that, oh, this person went out, looked at our products, looked at our offerings, and does know what the company is doing, what our
Yeah.
vision is. And
I think it's
like you
same like, if you're talking to somebody and other person mentioned the stuff that you do, you'll feel happy, oh, I do
exactly.
this stuff, you'll be like, okay, you're my friend now.
Yeah. That is a
Yeah.
great analogy. Yeah. Um, and like I think I loved what you said about talking to them in their language.
Yeah.
Great advice. Okay, so you have entered cloud, your dream, your the goal that you set.
Hmm.
You were able to achieve it. You had a great action plan that you were on. You nailed your interviews. Now, tell me about how Cloud Academy happened. So if people don't know,
Yeah.
Praveen works at Cloud Academy as a Cloud Labs developer. Um, I know the AWS like community builders are really familiar with Cloud Academy
Hmm.
because we get
Yeah.
access to it, right? So yeah, just tell me like how that happened.
Yeah. Going into the consulting role, I don't remember how many certifications I got and when I got, because entering that space, you always want to get more
Yeah,
and more, and there's always need for it. So like, I think every few months I'd get one, and very soon I got the promotions and things were just flying around.
nice.
And also started the blog at that time, same time, I think in April of the same year when I
Hmm.
joined. I started my own blog, and I was like, maybe it's time to also share stuff that I'm doing. And with that, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is good. Now, how should I continue learning more?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I came across a few different sites. A Cloud Guru was there, Pluralsight was there. I was like, oh, I've already used Pluralsight, so I don't want to go back there again,
Mm,
because I know the platform. I'm familiar with it. And that's the time when I discovered Cloud Academy is also in the picture. So I signed up for their annual, I think, yeah, their annual, you know,
the
subscription.
subscription, yeah.
I was just a consumer. I was just using the platform. And same during the similar time, the same year, a lot of activity happening on Twitter as well, and then the
Yes.
LinkedIn came in. So I was starting to post more actively and got my AWS certification as well. My the AWS fundamental, the cloud practitioner stuff.
Hmm.
So I went ahead and did that just to kind of test the water and see what AWS has to offer. With no interest of going into AWS, even though there's a huge market for
Yeah.
AWS, but I just want to stay in Azure. And yeah, a lot of those stuff, preparing for exams using Cloud Academy courses and labs, but
Hmm.
mostly I would just look for the video courses, because I can listen to video courses as I'm doing some work.
Yeah.
That's easier. So I think in September, October, I just kind of actively started posting as well. And
Hmm.
later in December, that's when I started posting YouTube videos.
I see.
And
Yeah.
going from March to December, I already had like 15, 20 blog posts on my website, good traffic coming in,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of Twitter activity happening as well, ongoing. And then learning about the 100 days of cloud,
Yeah.
and then also getting into YouTube videos. So I got like four videos on YouTube as well, which I'll probably get back to at one point. It's just so much work, and I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
also getting overwhelmed at one point. Like, this is too much stuff going on at the same time. Blog posts, articles, working, and then
Yeah.
certifications, keeping up with them, and then creating videos. I'm sure you can really resonate with all these things, right?
Definitely. Yeah. Because earlier it was, you have that like I don't know hunger, right? Because so
Mm-hmm.
earlier you're trying to break into a role, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to achieve something, and that's why you do these side things that will help you go there. And once you are there, now it has become your job, right? So like I
Hmm.
create videos, I create content, I do all this stuff for work from 8 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
and then if I have to sit and do the same thing on my personal time too, like it can become overwhelming, right? You don't want to keep doing the same thing every day.
Yeah.
um but yeah, I totally resonate to that. Okay, so you were active in the community, not only through Twitter and LinkedIn, but you were pushing out content with your technical
Mm-hmm.
blogs. You had your YouTube going on. You tested the waters with AWS, and you also had been using Cloud Academy for your own upskilling. So,
Yep.
like, how did you find out about the role, and like, how did that happen?
That happens on Twitter.
Okay.
Very interesting to me as well. To the day I just tell people like, "Here, Twitter got me the job, not the
Yeah,
LinkedIn
yeah,
this time." So yeah, I was so when learning on the cloud, I started following some of the trainers on the
I see. Yeah.
platform as well. So I was following Logan, who's my manager
Hmm.
now. Uh, Started following him, and I saw he posted about a Azure lab developer. So it's like, this is good stuff. Let's
Yeah.
see if I'm able to. So I texted him on Twitter and by saying, hey, this is the stuff that I have done in my career, and this is where I want to be, and this, this looks very kind of resonating to me.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, he was like, okay, sure, just apply, and we'll, we'll see in the process of the HR.
Hmm.
And that's the time when I was interviewing with like three other companies, and
Okay.
I had like job offers on table, and the Cloud Academy kind of interacting with them was just starting to happen. So
I
I was like,
see.
in there was so much confusion going on. Like, should I just go for these that I already
Yeah,
have, or
yeah,
should
yeah.
I just, I was like, no, Cloud Academy is good. This is something I want to. If I don't get, that's fine. But I don't want to get into like this kind of companies that I don't want to work for long term.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So Cloud Academy, I started interviewing with them. I ended up working now as a contractor with them. So that's the team is in Switzerland, but we all do remote work. So that just came to me, doing into going into interviews. They really liked my blog post that I did. They
Nice.
liked that I was already using platform and familiar with it. Again, same thing. You resonate with companies, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When people feel like you know them, they want you in. So I told them, not something that wasn't doing, but actually things that I was already doing. I told them what I was doing with the platform, like learning every day using their platform,
Hmm.
and how I would follow all the people on the community in the community as well. And I would post like technical blogs, which is kind of what I do now, as with them as well,
Yeah.
in terms of creating the content. It's like a to do, like it's a how to blog post basically, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so they really resonated with their idea of what the job was about, and
Hmm.
it was no time for them to kind of figure out, okay, this is a good match, and then I was on.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. And also, like, you know, you having the clarity of, hey, I already have job offers, but this Cloud Academy thing is looking really promising, something that I
Hmm.
want to do. Like, I feel like sometimes people, like, having clarity is also hard in this world.
Yeah, I think
It,
that also involves you being unsure what you really want in life, or
yeah, I
in
think
out of your IT career.
yeah, I think like you need to be self-aware about your
Yeah.
goals and just what you want and like where you are headed, and looking
Hmm.
at that long-term like goal that you have in mind. Is this gonna take me one step closer to that? um
Yeah.
but yeah, that comes from sitting down and thinking about stuff and like what
Yeah.
do you really want.
Yeah.
So
I
great,
was
great stuff.
thinking a lot, like I just want to learn and share what I
Yeah,
learn. So that really came out of the job, that things that I was doing outside my job, as you mentioned, things that you do now is similar to me. Like I was
yeah,
posting blog posts, I was creating videos, doing the same stuff now. It's no different. It's just like, you transition your passion into your career, basically.
yeah, and now you get paid for it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so I want to talk about the rapid questions that I had for you.
Hmm.
So I want to know your choices and opinions about things. The first one is, what do you what do you prefer, or what do you use on a daily basis? Is it Windows, Mac, or Linux?
I've switched to Mac for last 2 years now.
Oh, okay.
I do have Windows PC with me that I built myself.
Hmm.
I did a custom build,
Awesome. Love
and I
that.
still have it. Yeah.
Do you game? So I have to ask
I,
because
I
you have
I
a
have
custom
I
build.
have I have a game. It's a Division by Tom Clancy. Division
Ah, I
2, I
see.
think so.
Cool, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a bit embarrassed about my custom builds because I spent too much money on those.
I did. I
um,
think I spent like 3 grand. I'm not sure how much you
I
spent.
remember I remember talking to you. Remember this was,
Yeah.
and This was also in peak COVID times when the prices of GPUs and CPUs were just crazy.
Yeah, you were not able to find any
No,
GPU in the market. Yeah,
and
that
we
that
still did
happened.
it. So you
Yeah,
can think how crazy we.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
My CPU came like 2 weeks late. They shipped it to some different address and they had to reship it again. Yeah, that happened.
Well, so when I went to my local store, the only way you could buy a CPU and a GPU was if you buy them in bundle. So you had to buy a CPU,
Hmm.
the GPU, and the RAM because of the shortage. So they were prioritizing people who were building their PCs, like the entire PCs, rather
Yeah.
than accumulating GPUs for crypto, mining and stuff, which was good. But I was not looking for an upgrade on my CPU and RAM. But I was like, sure, let's do that as I'm
Hmm.
upgrading my GPU. Interesting, interesting. So we share that passion, I guess. What is your favorite programming language?
I'm starting to like Python a lot more these days.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
It's a lot of common interests here.
Yeah.
And are you a mechanical keyboard person or just a regular keyboard?
I have the Keychron K4, I think so. I have the one from Logitech as well.
Oh,
They're like
nice.
big keyboard, like very heavy one.
Oh, okay.
I still have that. I just don't use it anymore. Now I'm just on Mac, so I have the Magic Keyboard and the trackpad.
I see. Cool, cool. Okay, so that brings to the end of the show. I want you to give one suggestion or tip that you have for the listeners. It could be generic advice, it could be career advice, um, that people can leave with for this episode.
Yeah, I think in terms of career wise, just network with people that you want to be like eventually, that you want to become like. If you see anybody in IT doing very well and you're like, hey, I want to be like this person eventually, just follow them, and start the conversation, talk to them. Hey, how can I learn this stuff that you're doing? By asking people things that you want to achieve, they'll give you the pathway. They won't handhold you, maybe, to some extent they may, if they know you personally, right?
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of creating that personal connection so that they feel like, okay, I need to help this guy, he's my friend. And
Mhm.
otherwise they'll tell you like, hey, this is the path that you can follow, and
Yeah.
if you do the work, if they see you do the work, they'll help you more.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Great advice. And since you gave that advice, I'm gonna ask you to tell the listeners where they can find you on LinkedIn or Twitter, any socials that you want to share.
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Parveen Singh. You can type Singh Parveen, it'll show up, or just type Parveen Azure. You'll find me
Okay.
somewhere. Or you can Google me. I'm very popular
Yes.
on Google too.
Praveen's
It's,
blog posts rank really high on the
yeah,
Google search. So if you type Praveen Azure, or sometimes you must. I came across your blog post about PowerShell. I think I was doing
yeah.
something in
PowerShell.
PowerShell.
I keep an eye on my metrics. I see
Yeah.
PowerShell output. I think
Yes.
PowerShell table output is like really, really kind of blowing right now.
So yeah, this is the same Praveen. If you have seen his blog post, awesome. And I'll link down the socials in the description of
Yeah,
this show. But yeah, thank you, Praveen, for coming on the show. It gives a lot of perspective and like inspiration to students and professionals that are in IT and are trying to navigate their career.
yeah.
So I wanted to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. We'll see you all in the next episode. Cheers.